Okay, I see we are now recording. All right, so Eric, whenever you are ready.
Okay, let me just double check. Jason, are you also off mute in here?
I believe I am. Am I good to go?
Good. Yep, we're good to go. Okay, so I'm Eric Jackson. I'm the captain of Code for Asheville and also digital services architect for the city of Asheville. Excuse me? Yeah, okay, Christopher, yeah, mute. So we started this project in Asheville, and then we've ended up kind of extending it to all of North Carolina. It came out of, partly my interest is because I have a criminal defense attorney for a wife, and so I hear a lot about the barriers that her clients and people like her clients encounter all the time. And then in conversation with, actually it was the local homeless coalition, we discovered that there was an opportunity to do something about that. So, Jason? You're on mute, Jason.
My apologies. Jason Marshall here, captain of Code for Greensboro. Also the GIS application developer for the city of Greensboro. And talking a little bit about my interest in reentry and criminal justice. I honestly didn't know much about the subject of reentry before connecting with Eric on this project. He had done some work, as you'll learn a little bit through this presentation, in Buncombe County. And the discussions with Eric ultimately led Code for Greensboro to join in on our local discussions in Guilford County, where we are, on reentry, engaging with our local reentry council and other community-based committees that are doing reentry type work. And for me, it really highlighted a real gap that we've got in our community, providing access to basic needs to those that have paid their debts to society. And rolling on into kind of through the itinerary for the presentation, the name of the product we're demoing is the North Carolina Reentry Resources Hub. And the purpose is to provide a hub of high quality information on resources relevant and valuable to North Carolina citizens that are reentering society after a period of incarceration or while they're dealing with collateral consequences of previous criminal convictions. We have a couple user stories or quotes that we've acquired from the Buncombe-based project that was originally developed. We have a quote from an individual that's living in Buncombe County that was previously incarcerated and had trouble finding quality information on and help with reintegrating back into society. And this individual became aware of the Reentry Hub site after struggling with finding resources and had this to say, and I quote, "If I would have had the Reentry Hub, I wouldn't have had to go from one place to another looking for different sources about food stamps, financial aid, and doctors. People can have access to the correct information and not the myths that they currently believe to be true. This site is amazing, and every inmate should be informed of this site on the day of release," end quote. And we also have a quote from Christiana Tugman. I see you there, Christiana. If you wave so everybody knows who you are. Christiana is the City of Asheville homelessness lead and the coordinator for the Asheville Buncombe Continuum of Care program area. And she was the community stakeholder primarily responsible for the creation and the vetting of the original reentry resource content. And I have a quote from her as well. I quote, "This site is actively being used now as a resource by the local Buncombe United Way, social service agencies, prison programmers, probation officers at the Department of Public Safety, the Buncombe County Jail, and the Public Defender's Office in Buncombe County, working with people preparing to get out of prison or assisting those who have previous convictions that create barriers to employment, basic needs, and entitlements," end quote. And now I'll pass it off to Eric for a little more about the project history and the hands-on demo.
Okay, so the original version of this, we started about a year ago, and it was targeting just Buncombe County, which is where Asheville is. And it was nothing more than a WordPress site. We worked with Christiana, who is a specialist on reentry. We worked with the United Way and a local legal services nonprofit to make sure that we had the right information and that all the information was accurate. And we just launched it. Really threw it together over a period of weeks, and then another couple of months of kind of vetting all the information, launched it. And we're kind of blown away. From our standpoint, technically this is about as dull as it gets. It's a website with some links on it. But there was pretty overwhelming enthusiasm. So I just want to, the current site is essentially a replica of that one, with a little bit more structure to it. It's nothing more than kind of a set of basic topic areas that where people with criminal convictions or just getting out are likely to hit barriers. And each of the pages has a pretty simple, straightforward structure. You have an initial kind of main section with information that's relevant to anybody in the state. And then there's another, followed by a section with kind of text information about the particular county we're in this case, Buncombe County. And then the rest of each page is a list of resources with a little bit of commentary, again, divided into sections with kind of a general national, state level issues and resources, local and regional resources, and then part of what makes this something that we can actually scale statewide is local resources where we're pulling from the 211 database or linking to it using the county as a parameter. So like I said, we launched this about a year ago, and we're immediately starting to hear not only local enthusiasm, but people saying basically we want one too from other parts of the state. And so I'm going to turn back to Jason to talk about how we decided to go about scaling the project up beyond Buncombe County.
So after I had connected with Eric a little over a year ago and had learned about the Buncombe County-based site, and I was interested initially in cloning what they had done, and but quickly as we discussed, we realized that there was an opportunity here to provide value beyond just the urban centers within North Carolina that are fortunate enough to have a brigade present. And the core of how we did this, as Eric mentioned, was that Buncombe County had already aggregated all of the federal and state level resources that were applied to every resident in the state. And that in tandem with the localized parameterized links through the 211 database. You can see here we've got a listing of all 100 counties, links to all 100 counties, and we're going to demo Hyde here. And Hyde County is one of the poorest, if not the poorest, county in North Carolina. It's very rural. There's about 6,000 people. The per capita income is around $14,000. And there's no urban hub in this county. There will likely never be a Code for America brigade in this area. But you can see here as Eric scrolls down that we still have the federal health care. We're looking at the healthcare page here, the national, state, and the general resources that we saw on the Buncombe page. But then we've also got local parameterized resources for Hyde County.
Somebody seems to have unmuted.
Like Daniel, maybe? Okay.
Yeah, that seems to be good.
Great. Okay, so here you can see if we take a look at one of the 211 database links, we can see here that we've got some Hyde County medical resources here that could be leveraged by either service providers that are assisting those that are reentering from incarceration, or the individuals themselves could access these. And just to add on to this a bit, we're also building in the opportunity for local counties to partner with us to add their own localized content should there be a community stakeholder within Hyde County or another county that wanted to partner with the project. And so that being said, this can be of high value to these areas of our state, any area of the state, because prison counselors who are attempting to find resources and services for inmates prior to release can use the site to find resources that they might not already have access to if the prison isn't already in the community that the individual is going to be released into. And then, so I'll turn it now back over to Eric for a little bit about the technical pieces of the project.
Okay, so the technology has gotten slightly more interesting. As I said, originally it was a WordPress site. But the way the site is structured now, all of the content is contained just in a directory hierarchy of JSON files. So topics directory has something for each topic. If I go in, I can see that each of these has a configuration with a little bit of, basically the name of the page. This is the description that goes at the top. Then we have any kind of state and national level resources, and then we have the kind of parameterized queries. So here, the local jurisdiction, which is just a parameter that comes in, is used to localize these queries that go into the 211 online database. So this information is automatically compiled together with the information from whatever jurisdiction you're in. So if you look at, not Brunswick, but Buncombe County, then we have essentially the same structure. We've got kind of that's not actually it. If I go into housing, for example, we've now got the local text, local resources that are then pulled together to create the second half of the page, and we get the result that you see. If we go to Hyde County, however, you can see that what we have in Hyde County is nothing but a configuration file with a name. So everything is being pulled together simply by taking the national and state level, which is applicable in any county, and then putting that together with any of the resources that we can use, we can pull from the 211 database, just parameterizing that with the county name. So as far as the tech stack, we're using React on the front end. We have a simple node program on the back end. We're in the process, or rather just starting to build out an administrative interface so that normal people can actually edit this, and that'll use a GraphQL API. The main site is going to be launching in the next few weeks. And as far as what we would ask of other brigades, you're welcome to take this and clone it. You're welcome to help contribute. That's great. What we really would be thrilled to hear about are taking the idea of whatever you're doing in your local brigade, think about how you can broaden the impact of your projects, especially for those parts of your state or region that are never going to have a Code for America brigade. That was kind of what we're excited about in this one, and we'd love to see more people do it. And I think that's basically.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful, and I think that was an excellent point. As a reminder, we will be having tons of times for Q&A at the end, so feel free to take notes now. Our next presenter is Christy from Illinois. Yay! She's on mute. I'm trying to unmute her.
James,
He's Oh, Christy.
Christy, we can't hear you yet. We're gonna.
Can you hear Wes?
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay.
Perfect.
Excellent. I think I might have to drop some links for you all. I don't see an option to share my screen. I'm on an iPad, so I've been finding that makes a difference in these apps.
There should be something at the bottom that says share a screen. Otherwise,
Nope.
it.
Okay, well, I'll give you links.
Okay.
First one coming at you right now in chat. Okay, so I'm in Chicago. I work with education. I work with the Access to Justice group out of ChiHack Night. We're a working group that gets together every Tuesday with the rest of ChiHack Night. And we were having folks from different organizations who were working with people reentering from prison, reentering society, returning from prison. And they were just giving us information about the challenges that people encounter, the challenges that they were encountering as service providers. And in talking with Education Justice Project, besides offering classes in prisons, they also have a guide that they were handing out to prison counselors and to people who were alumni from their programs, from their classes. And then those folks were telling their friends about, hey, there's this great guide with all different kinds of resources. But it was this printed guide. Now they have a PDF of the guide online. I just gave you the same link, but it was just a PDF that wasn't searchable. You had to download it from Dropbox off their website. And so they were looking to bring that online. They met the gentleman who owns this domain name, reentryillinois.net, which looks like this right now. If you want to click that. The resources that are listed there are pretty out of date, but for a while he was keeping a database of housing resources, food resources, all types of things that Education Justice Project has in their guide. So he kind of left this site to them. He's not using it anymore. And they said, hey, maybe we can work with you all to bring our guide online. So their PDF, if you scroll all the way to the back, you can find these lists of different types of resources, these directories of resources. So for this initial phase of the project, what we've been doing is taking those lists of resources and making them something that people can interact with and filter and look at on a map. So it so happens that one of the members of our group works for DataMade, and they had a site, which I think most of their sites they work on are open source. So I'm dropping this link, probationcommunityresources.org, that they had made with for probation officers in the Chicago area. So we took that and turned it into a prototype, because this is essentially what we wanted to do, right? We wanted people to be able to see location-based resources, figure out, hey, I'm taking the bus or I'm taking the train, so I need to find places that are nearby, or maybe I live in downstate Illinois, so really what is there down here? How far am I going to have to travel? People can look for different types of resources, see them in a map, or they can look at them in a list. So this is basically what we wanted, and we got to work customizing this. We had some feedback sessions and talked a bunch with our partner. They, meanwhile, they were keeping their guide up to date. They were working with a researcher and getting feedback from readers, and so we're incorporating their content updates as we went along too. And I will show you our, one sec, I'm going to show you our prototype, our work in progress. So it's map.reentrycolab.org. And we added a wizard because in one of our feedback sessions, we were just hearing from folks that it was just kind of overwhelming to come to a site that's listing 1,200 resources. So we wanted to give people a way into the site. You can skip all this if you want to, or you can answer all the questions. You can enter your address and see resources that are closer to your home. So if you want to be thinking about, needing to be home by curfew or needing to not be spending 2.5, 3 hours traveling someplace, you can look for things that are closer. So in thinking through what a wizard might look like, we also ended up having some recommendations on the categories. So that's the next thing we'll be talking about with our partners, is how do we want to tweak these categories. We've ended up with this sorting by what you're looking for, well, filtering by what you're looking for and who you are, or who the programs are serving, I guess, is what that refers to. And yeah, once we have hammered out some remaining details, the first version of this will go up on Illinois or reentryillinois.net. I guess as for why we care about this, I mean, I'm one contributor to the project. I can't really speak for everybody about this, but people coming out of prison, people dealing with incarceration it's a big issue in Chicago, and ChiHack Night is, for the most part, a fairly privileged group. We've got people with great jobs, people going to expensive schools, people coming there to do skill building, and connecting other people in our city with resources just seems like a very appropriate thing for us to be working on. So this, like I said, we pulled this code from DataMade. They've got this up available in their GitHub, and our prototype is also available on our GitHub site. So you're welcome to get in touch with us if you want to talk more about the project, or just fork our repo and go from there if you prefer.
PRESSURE.
What was that?
Hi, that was wonderful, Christy. Thank you so much. We are going to move on to our next demo, and we're going to do Client Com, and we have Manya here from the Code for America team.
Hi. I'm in so many video things right now. Should I look
This
on
is just
your
the best mic.
screen or mine?
Share from your screen.
Okay, great.
So why don't you just you can just use the mic.
Hi, everyone. I'm Manya. I'm a senior product manager here at Code for America on ClientCom. So just some really quick high-level context on what ClientCom is, and then I'll do a quick demo. ClientCom is a tool that we built for folks that are on community supervision, whether that's probation or pretrial supervision or parole, etc. And 5 million people in this country are on probation right now, which is massive. And every year, about 50% of those 5 million people exit probation. And of the people who exit, about 60% exit successfully and 40% don't exit successfully, which means they went back to jail or prison, or they have a new warrant for their arrest. And so we want to avoid that. And in looking into why is that failure rate so high, we found that a lot of the reason for that failure rate is that there are just like a lot of rules that you have to comply with when you're on probation. Like you have court dates and you have drug tests and you need to be here and there. And it's really hard to find out about what those rules are and how you can comply with them. So we built ClientCom to help POs and clients get in touch with each other and stay in touch with each other. So I am going to show you what that looks like. So you should see ClientCom right now. And a little bit more context. So ClientComm was built as a fellowship project, actually in 2016, in Salt Lake County. And since the beginning of this year, we have rebuilt the app and have scaled it to a bunch of new jurisdictions like Baltimore and Portland and Tucson and Des Moines, and will continue to scale as we grow. But it is a simple application which lets POs and clients text message each other. So it just uses Twilio and SMS to send and receive messages. So I am going to send a message, and I'm going to pick on Erie, and you are going to be my guinea pig because I see that you have a phone.
Big time.
So I'm a PO in ClientComm, and I am going to add in Erie and your phone number.
614.
You are sharing it to the whole world right now.
That's great. I love these people. They know it. 738
738
8426.
26. Okay.
That's all right. Text me.
Oh no! Oh, it already exists. You already exist, and you belong to Milani. Okay.
All right. Who's up next?
Just kidding. You? Okay. Okay.
517
517
755
755
9266.
9266. All right. You're not already.
We're already on probation.
Oh gosh. Okay. Everything is burning right now.
It is a legal requirement that during any demo something breaks. So this is
Something's
perfect.
breaking. You know what? I'm just going to use myself right now. Okay, so here I am. I'm going to send a text message to myself. Hey, Manya, it's your PO, Manya. And something really nice about ClientComm is you can send messages immediately, which sends it as a text message. And it doesn't come from your phone number. So lots of POs are concerned about giving out like their personal phone numbers or their work phone numbers. But this comes from a number that we assign to the department. And you can also schedule messages for later, which is especially helpful for court appointments or drug tests, or etc. I'm going to send myself a message. Grab my phone. And what this looks like is it just looks like a normal text message, which is great because lots of clients don't necessarily have smartphones, or they may have sort of spotty service, but SMS is the most reliable way to reach them. And if you get a message back from a client, it shows up in ClientComm. So just a couple other nifty things that you can do on ClientComm. You can set a mass message, which is a great way of reaching a whole bunch of clients at once. So if you need to reach everyone and say, hey, the office is closed, there's a snowstorm, or there's a job fair, this is a way that you can do that. And one other really nifty feature that we have built recently is, so the text messages that get sent from this 415 number. Every instance has its own phone number. What's really nice for a client is that when they call this number, they get connected to the case manager. So this number is just sort of a conduit, but it can actually connect clients via phone to their POs, which is really great. If you are having a text message conversation and you want to transition that over to the phone, you can just call the same number, and clients don't have to remember like which is the text number and which is the desk phone number. I don't remember. Those are some of the basics with ClientComm. It is all in Rails. It's all open source and on GitHub, and I can drop the link in here to check that out. And like I said, we're expanding to we're in lots of places and we're expanding to lots of places. So would love to chat with folks who are doing things in either the jurisdictions that we're operating in or the jurisdictions that we will be operating in, because I think that there's lots of potential for collaboration and good idea sharing.
Easy, maybe like a word or two about outcomes.
Yes. Oh, that's the best part.
Softball.
So what we have found with ClientComm, so like you saw, this is a really simple tool, right? It's nothing especially special, but what we've seen are just even this very simple solution has gotten some pretty amazing results. So in Salt Lake County, where we have been live for the longest, we've seen an average of 5 hours per PO per month saved in terms of work where they're not playing phone tag or having to kind of like figure out, did I tell you this thing and let me write a letter, which is great. They have increased their communication frequency with clients by a factor of 8, so 8x more communication per client per month, which is also great. And last but certainly not least, we have seen a 30% increase in success for clients who are on supervision. So that means that whereas before in Salt Lake County, I think it was like 50% of people were successful. Now more than 80% of people are successfully completing the program. And that's really just because they're getting reminders about where they need to be and when, they're able to ask questions, and they just have that direct line, which is awesome. So we're excited to see as we just like continue to build out this tool, like how do we continue to also build out the impact.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Manya. That was great. Up next, we have Tiffany, who also is at Code for America and is going to do a quick overview of Clear My Record.
Hi, Tiffany Andrews. I am a product manager here at CFA, and I'm on the Clear My Record team. So Clear My Record is actually a intake expungement tool that allows individuals to apply once to clear their record in the counties that we're partnered in here in California. So we're currently partnered with 14 counties here in California. So the reason why we really wanted to start working on this is that we know like 1 in 4 adults have a criminal record. And in California alone, we have estimated about 3.1 million people that are eligible for record clearance. So we really wanted to figure out a way to allow individuals to only have to apply once without having to go county by county and kind of move forward with their lives. We know that they've already served their time, they've completed probation and parole, and so they're just looking to kind of check this one last thing off and move forward. We know a lot of times having a felony on your record interferes with getting jobs. You're not able to travel because you can't have a passport. You won't be able to vote. And so some people also have family members and friends that are incarcerated, so they won't also be able to visit them. And we just don't want this to be a barrier in our communities anymore and to kind of plague people's lives. So starting last year, we built out this intake tool, which I will quickly walk you all through. And we started here in the Bay Area with 3 counties, San Francisco, Alameda, and Contra Costa. Give me one moment while I share my screen. And we expanded this year by partnering with public defenders to 14 other counties. So once you go to Clear My Record, you'll see kind of information about how quick it takes. So it only takes about 10 minutes just to do the first step, the counties that we're enlisted in. So you can go ahead and get started. One thing that we wanted to focus on is just only asking the most important questions first, knowing that attorneys will always have numerous opportunities to go back. So we are here in Fresno, and you can apply to more than 1 county at a time. At the top, it lets you know which counties you're applying in. You can also switch. Just like with ClientComm, we have the option to do text message and email. Out the form. Does anyone want to give me their cell number?
I don't think my record has been cleared. 614 738 8426.
Thank you. And then I'll just send a bum email. Oops. Sorry, we just recently put in form validation, so it would automatically start to give me errors. Let's see, should be able to bypass these.
I mean, hooray for form validation.
Huh?
I said, hooray for form validation.
Yeah.
Bad for demos.
I was like, it's kind of a little bit lugger, so normally we're able to quickly be able to pass all of this information, but I know we have form validations on here now, so we asked certain questions like, are you currently facing a sentence? Are you on probation or parole? Want to know if they have convictions or arrests in other counties. Are they currently employed? And the reason why the next series of questions are for fee waivers. So California allows individuals who are low income to apply for fee waivers. So when they're applying for expungement, their court filing fees are waived. However, if they still do have outstanding court balances or restitution, they are still on the hook for paying those. But for expungement, they don't have to pay for them if they qualify. So that's what these questions are about, rentals, children. And then this has been a really key question for us, is just wanting to get a better understanding of why people who are applying online, what is the reason why they're wanting to apply for record clearance. And these questions at the bottom was requested by our public defenders because they just wanted to make sure that they are understanding that it could take some time, that if they are eligible, that they still may have to pay, but if not, they'll have a fee waiver. This is YOLO Pacific. And then that an attorney will not only pull their criminal records, but also file the petition and attend court for them. So the states, it's about 21 counties here that have public defender offices that provide clean slate programs. So that is a free service to individuals that do qualify to be able to get their record expunged. So California has 58 counties and the other 58 counties do not. See, form validation, so I will just use mine. I do not have a program. 0. Do not have a program or any services available for people to do it. Sorry. Okay, we should be all set to go. So this is just kind of like our quick preview page where individuals can go in and make edits and changes. Here you should have got a text message with the same message. Also an email was sent to myself with this message that we see on the screen. And what ends up happening next is that an application will be sent to the public defender's office in Fresno and Yolo County with all of their information. The public defender has the capability not only to determine eligibility, but on the back end, they're able to send out a status notification via text and email to the individual to notify them of what their next steps are. So that kind of is Clear My Record in a nutshell, and the work that we've been doing so far this year. This quarter and moving into next year, since we know that not only here in California, but also in other states, that not everyone has some type of clean slate program or can afford a private attorney to apply for record expungement. So we have been researching ways for individuals to apply on their own through the pro-per process, so that we can be able to help more people not only just apply, but completely move through the process. So if you are in Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, or New York, we would love to talk with you. If you're not in those states but have some contacts and resources, we would also love to further speak with you. We're looking to expand our work into other states in the upcoming year. So thanks so much.
That's amazing. Thank you. All right, up next is the one, the only Carlos.
So,
Can you hear me?
you need to stop sharing your screen.
Working?
There you are.
Oh, yeah? The audio working now or no?
You're very quiet.
Hello, hello. I'm trying to unmute all the things. Can you hear me? Did you hear me? Okay, good, great, awesome. Cool, cool, cool. All right, let's get to my screen. Come on now. So, all right, this is giving me fits here. Share my screen. Working? But I can't see my own screen. That's weird.
It's working.
Can you see the code for Fort Lawton, Tulsa slide deck? All right. All right, cool. So, Fort Lawton. So very simply, it's a text messaging system for getting reminders of upcoming court dates. I just heard this statistic today. Tulsa issues about 50,000 municipal citations a year. And of course, failure to show when you are faced with a court date and bench warrants for either failing to show up for a court date or failing to pay your fines and fees is a huge issue. It's something that Tulsa County is looking at solving. And in Atlanta for the 2014 fellowship, they were looking at that year, 40,000 people missing their court date. And of course that is a huge issue in Atlanta as well. And so research by Human Rights Watch shows that when you send people reminders, they work. People are able to know when they need to pay and know when they need to show up to court, and the response rate is much better. So we forked Code for America's 2014 Fellowship Project. And so huge thanks to Atlanta, huge thanks to Code for Anchorage, who helped us with kind of configuring it for Tulsa. So very simply, a client subscribes to the service by sending their case number via text message. And what CourtBot does is subscribes them to automatic notifications and then searches a database to see if there's any new information that's upcoming about their case. The messages are sent via Twilio. And in the case of Tulsa, our court system in Tulsa County is run by a statewide database that's called the Oklahoma Supreme Court Network. And so what we were able to do in Tulsa is basically we wrote an API to the Oklahoma Supreme Court Network website, and it scrapes all the data for cases by county. And so what CourtBot does is basically just run, in Heroku it's called Scheduler, but it's a basic cron job. So it just runs every night, looks for cases that are on its subscription list, and any new dates that come up are sent via text message to that subscriber. And so what we're looking at now, the bulk of the work in our brigade for CourtBot is basically working on being able to deploy it to other cities. And so the first thing that I would highly recommend for a city that is looking to implement CourtBot for court reminders in their location is to first find a champion in your city that will kind of partner with you to help navigate the very complex court system, because it's something that we had to spend a lot of time learning. In our case, we're working with the Tulsa County Courthouse clerk in Tulsa, and also the county clerk in Rogers County and in Muskogee County. And in Tulsa, we're also working with the Public Defender's Office. And so those would be a couple of places that you can look to help find some willing partners that would help you kind of find out where this data is being kept, and sort of help you inform folks to use the service. That's one of our biggest challenges right now, is to just spread the word that this is working and available to everybody. And of course, just go to our GitHub and fork it and enjoy. But there's a few things that you kind of need to get started. And that would be a Heroku account to host CourtBot, a Twilio account, and your data. And so going from Tulsa, or going basically from Oklahoma, because because it's a statewide network, we're able to easily deploy in any county in Oklahoma. But for deploying it to other states and other cities, there's a couple of issues that we run into that are going to be that need to be resolved first. So I'll take a step back and say, here are, and I've shared the slide deck in the chat window so you can see all these links. But here's all of our repos for CourtBot. You can see that we've kind of split it up into the part of CourtBot that is that sets up the data, the part that collects reminders, and the part that sends reminders. So each one of those has kind of its own repo, and the reason we did that was so that it could be sort of modular. You can plug and play different components. And just to give you an example of a couple of components that we developed that we're not currently using, if you don't want a Twilio account and you want to send messages via Facebook Messenger, we started a repo, and we kind of started that experiment to be able to send messages via Facebook. And today we talked about sending messages via different chat systems, or via different SMS platforms. And obviously, any other city that's wanting to deploy CourtBot will need a component that connects to your own data. So instead of obviously using Oklahoma Supreme Court network data, you'd be using your own city's court data. We also created, and that's the bottom of this list here, a front-end system for public defenders or legal aid or other organizations who have clients who need court reminders to subscribe clients for them, so that clients aren't needing to subscribe on their own. And that's a project we've sort of started, and it's ongoing. So how can you help? There's a couple of things, like I said earlier, we run into. The first thing that I thought we would have kind of addressed at the beginning, but was kind of an oopsie, is that the time zone in CourtBot is hard coding. So we need a way to kind of modularize that. Obviously, that would be the first thing we needed if we wanted to deploy this in on either coast. So that's something that we need help with. The other thing that we need help with is kind of thinking through the types of data that CourtBot needs and the messages that are sent, and kind of making that quicker and easier to deploy in other places. So this slide has sort of a framework of what the data is that CourtBot needs and the date format so that it can send its messages. And as of right now, there's no real quick and easy way to sort of grab that data and implement it into a new instance of CourtBot. But my thinking is that if we sort of give this a try and dive in with both feet in a couple cities, we can learn as we go and kind of learn how to scale it up as we, the more data in the more cities that we get, the more we're going to learn, and the more we know what to standardize and how to scale up. And so sort of the third thing that we are working on now is the Atlanta project had the ability to pay fines and fees, and we've kind of removed that functionality for Tulsa, but the city of Tulsa is asking us to bring that back. In fact, I just got off the phone with them today. So that's a feature that is coming back that we want to work on. And if you're interested in helping out with CourtBot, please let me know.
Awesome. That is great. Thank you. So now we save the rest of this time, which I guess is half an hour, for questions or discussion. So I guess I'll throw out the first question. Is anybody else on the thread who didn't present tonight, are you thinking about redeploying one of these projects, or are you already working on a project in a similar vein? So James is. Carlos is going to do them all. Cool. James, I can't figure out where you are or how to unmute you, but do you want to just quickly say what you're thinking about doing? It's you, James.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey. What's your brigade?
Say it again.
What brigade are you from?
Gainesville.
Yay!
Florida.
That's awesome.
Awesome.
What's the one you're thinking about redeploying CourtBot?
So I just moved to the Gainesville area and just met these guys, and so this is kind of my second meeting with their meetup, and so just kind of sucking it all in and a little bit of overload here as far as what they're doing, because some of the stuff that they're doing is quite amazing as well. Wondering if I should, tack on my resources to the projects that they have going on, or forking one of the projects that I just saw, which, man, they're freaking amazing. Well done.
Awesome. Cool. Have other questions come up for folks?
Yeah, Nehemiah, can you talk a little bit about what you did in St. Louis? I know it was, I know you didn't use our code, the CourtBot code exactly, but you did a very similar project to CourtBot. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. And y'all can hear me, right? Okay, so we did another project. We actually held a hackathon hosted by a local hackathon throwing organization here called Global Hack. And they hosted a big one. They gave a big prize, and a couple of contractors from a couple of professional programmers competed with everyone else, and they came up with this sort of spring-based application called we named it in Visio after the team. It's now deployed, called Your STL Courts, and they ran into the issue with the fact that, well, there's not just one nice database like there is in Oklahoma. Instead, there's like 91 different court dockets because there's 91 municipalities in St. Louis, in the St. Louis County area. And so we got one or two, we got this St. Louis County, and we made APIs so that the various other docket softwares could pull from their databases and ingest them into our software. And we regularly meet to what's called a St. Louis Civic Tech and Data Collaborative to talk about the effort to get the other counties on board, which has been really the hardest part. Sorry, not counties, but municipalities on board. And it's been slow going, but it is working. It's in yes, that's that. And frankly, I thought that was kind of unique, the number of municipalities in one area, until I saw the episode of John Oliver on bail that expressed the same thing is actually quite common. Oh, thank you. URSTLcourts.com. Yes, that's the one. And so that's similar, but not the same. And I think it has a different focus. I think we did use Twilio on the back end. A lot more Java programmers around than there are. I think Rails isn't CourtBot Rails. I don't know, but and part of it, like one of the ingesters had to be written in like .NET in order to communicate with one of the database's proprietary API. So that's one thing that computers are good at, is smoothing over the civic issues to make a unified apparatus for such a thing. It works. It was a thing we did. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you for sharing.
Is there a way to like raise your hand to ask a question, or?
Actually, there is a button. Your hand.
There is a hand raised, but for now, I think we've got enough where people can just unmute themselves and talk.
Awesome. I'm curious if anybody's using blockchain technology for any of their projects.
And I also, every time I'm talking to government folks and they hear the word blockchain, their eyes go dark. So I don't know if people have had other experiences.
So I actually work for IBM Blockchain, and a lot of governments are actually very interested in it. I think it might just depend on who you talk to.
We do have a question from Jill. Carl, oh, you saw it. Other questions about anything we've seen so far?
Aaron from Orlando, I'm going to call you out. Why did you join this call? Are you looking for projects to deploy? Or were you just curious about what people were working on?
Yeah, it's super loud in here, so I apologize. But basically I know nothing about this space, and so I was really curious what everyone else was doing and kind of learn where I can start, or if it's easy to start, or, you know, what's going on. So I guess my question is, I know nothing about this space. What can I do? What should I learn?
Hey, Jill, since you guys just did the, yeah, you're still there. Since you guys just did the project in the research project on reentry, do you want to share a little bit about what you guys did as an example for Erin?
Sure. So, hey everyone. So over the late summer and fall, we did a series of 8 focus groups with mostly the reentry community themselves, some of their partners that provide resources, police officer, the county parole officers, and public defender's office. So that way we kind of got everybody's view. But the goal was to figure out what barriers, what were their greatest barriers, what would help them overcome it, what kind of resources that they want. Obviously, your basics come out always, housing, food, the simple things that we all take for granted. The interesting ones that came out were, I had a lot more people ask that they wanted entrepreneurship training and resources than I was expecting. They explained to me that they were already entrepreneurs, just in the wrong fields. Felt like that was probably pretty accurate. But that they wanted those kind of, to be able to build something. In North Carolina, it's extremely hard to clear your record. And, but we do have certificates of relief, which are easier to get, and will help you get a job. Most of them didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. So being able to provide them basic information. But we found out a whole lot of things like resources and stuff that they want. There's some policy work that we're going to start doing with them to kind of help with our prisons, the Bureau of Prisons, to help try to change the policy where felons can't hang out with felons. So that way they can have more formalized mentorship programs. They would like to do something, equivalent to having like a sponsor. So they have somebody to come and talk to, somebody to help them. They technically can't do that currently. Though I think that's the part they break the most. Learned some stuff that we kind of already knew. They need affordable housing, better jobs, things like that. But then I wasn't expecting them, especially the male population, to want mentorship as much as they do, and to want things like entrepreneurship training, and to understand what their blockades are about starting a business, because with a felony it's hard to start a business sometimes. So that kind of stuff was interesting. Next week is my output report is due. I can post it into the Slack channel if anybody's interested.
That's awesome. Brendan, from Anchorage, Alaska, you had posted something about the fellowship project there. Do you want to say something about it?
Sure. Claremma and Adrian came up and we started working on kind of barriers to jobs, and quickly they were doing some job shadowing and worked with a group. We have Partners for Reentry, and discovered a lot of people were kind of overwhelmed by some of the government websites, and they wanted, a lot of people didn't have IDs or housing, and there was stuff they needed to figure out first before even looking for a job. So they kind of created a straightforward site. It's kind of a TurboTax where you can have, you can check like, oh, I have my tribal ID, but I don't have this, and then it'll tell you what resources you might need, and then it links to the websites that have those resources, but it has a nice CMS so that individual case managers can edit it and make changes. And we found that simple language and also encouraging language was helpful. A lot of people were getting discouraged with the process. So a funny anecdote was the reentrants came up with, oh, do this, it'll only take 10 minutes, it's a piece of cake. When we tested that with the refugees and immigrants, piece of cake does not translate as well into other languages. But it was good just to kind of see people wanted kind of straightforward tasks. They set up a system where you could print out the tasks that you had to do if you were using like a library computer, or email it to yourself. Like, here are the phone numbers you need to call. So they did a great job, and we're in the process of rolling it out. I mean, it's rolled out, but we're adding content to it and bringing on partners, and we're getting Google Analytics data to try to see. But they also created a nice, they have documentation if you go to the GitHub site that's pretty good on how to set it up for yourself. They use Wagtail, and so people could set it up as well for specific uses, but it's a pretty straightforward content management system. But what I really liked was that they had check boxes, so you could say like, I've been recently married, or I recently got out of jail, and then it would filter on tasks for there. And then I would say Durham, Anchorage is lucky to be part of an innovation team, and the Durham innovation team is doing a lot of work on justice involved residents. And I just posted a news article, but they just got data from the DMV on how many people have a revoked license in North Carolina, or I guess in the Durham area, and it's like 1 in 8 or 1 in 6. So they're looking at like amnesty programs or ways to hook people up with IDs, because that seems to be a huge barrier for reentrants getting jobs or houses or anything. And then we're also looking at CourtBot and ClientCom. We have CourtBot ready to go for like 1.5 years and are working with the state court system, and it just keeps being delays. The problem with working with a group of all lawyers is they like to review things a lot of the time, over and over again. But Tulsa did a great job rolling out CourtBot, and I've been gone for half an hour, so I don't know if I'm being redundant here, but this is a great conversation, and thanks for convening this.
Great. Yeah. And any other questions or ideas or things that you want to talk about? Well, hop in the chat if you want to contribute something. But I was incredibly impressed at the work that I saw today and the thoughts you guys had. And it sounds like a lot of people are interested in figuring out how to get started. I don't know where that's coming from. How to get started on some of this work. So I would love this to not be a one-time thing, and would love to sort of build an informal caucus. To connect all the different groups who are working on this, and maybe to have another get together in a few months as well. The next workshop in the series, if you guys are interested, will be around disaster response. So we'll be reaching out to a number of the brigades that have recently worked on some really difficult local challenges, sort of standing on each other's shoulders. So this is our first workshop. We've got more to go. We will learn along the way. If you have feedback about how this went or ways it could be better, I would love to hear that too. You guys all know me on Slack, and I emailed you all several times. So any other questions or last word?
I have one. So this is Tiffany from Code for America. I would love to hear from you all, whether it's either in the chat or directly in email. How can we, the Safety and Justice team, be able to better either support or connect with you all in your work? Or what do you need from us so that we can actually kind of continue to have a more robust safety and justice breadth of work within this space? So I know it's a pretty big question, but if you guys have thoughts or answers, we would love to further hear. Emma, our new head of product, is also really interested in further understanding how can we better help or highlight the work that you all are also doing.
Great. Well, I echo Jen in saying that this is a really serious issue that held a lot of opportunity with helping our neighbors and loved ones. So thank you so much for your efforts, and I am so excited to keep working on this with you all. Bye.
Bye, everyone.